Hello, Environmental Policy 1 students. I'm checking in with you on the video for writing the briefing notes in briefing note style and on participating in discussion boards, the weekly discussion boards. Now, you'll notice in the course that there are 4 assignments that are required, written assignments. Those are noted on your course section information document. And in the Blackboard under assignments, you'll find those assignments where you can download the instructions. And there's also, for each assignment, there's a submission link where you post your finished assignment. Now, the written assignments tend to be about 4 to 5 pages long because I'm not asking for term essays, but rather I'm asking for briefing note styles. In a briefing note style, what you're trying to do is convey as much precise factual information to a busy reader as you can in the time allotted, or the space allotted for the briefing note. Now, keep in mind that under these scenarios, you're supposed to, when you do the briefing note, try to live the scenario as much as you can. Pretend you're actually working in that scenario. It will help you a lot in terms of writing the briefing note. Don't worry about it. It might seem a bit strange that you're living this scenario, you're acting the role, but believe me that when you do come to getting a job in the sector and you're asked to write a briefing note, you'll look back on Environmental Policy 1 and Environmental Policy 2, and you'll appreciate the fact that you learned how to write in a business-oriented briefing note style in these courses, because that is a good chunk of the writing you'll be doing in most workplace situations. So what's the difference between a briefing note and a research essay? Well, a research essay at the academic level, particularly in university, you're being asked to make an argument, to state a thesis and argue that thesis throughout. In the briefing note style, you're not arguing a thesis, you're portraying facts in the way that makes the most sense to give the information needed by your client or your boss in the scenario provided. Okay, so you're sticking to the facts, you're sticking to the most important facts, you're avoiding missing anything that could be significant for your boss in the situation that she or he finds themselves in, and you're portraying that information in a non-opinionated way. When you do have opinions, you can save it for a comment or a summary or a recommendation section at the end of your briefing note. But when you're providing your briefing note, you're providing it in a very factual manner. And you're providing each of the pieces of information that your reader needs in a way that is fair and balanced to all perspectives or all points of view on the subject matter. Because remember, you're not expressing a point of view. You're expressing the facts about people who might have sets of points of view, or facts that may have occurred or may occur, or risks that do exist or may exist. And so you're keeping it very factual. Now, in a briefing note style, it's very important to start off with a clear issue statement. That issue statement is typically about 2 sentences long that says that this briefing note is about blah, blah, blah. This briefing note has been provided with the recognition that you have been invited to a meeting at blah, 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 where the following topic will be discussed. The reason you need that issue statement is that the writer or the reader may be such a busy person that they may not even recall that they requested the briefing note, okay? Or they may have requested so many briefing notes or be seeing so many pieces of paper that they need to be refreshed. Then the second section would typically be, what is the scenario? What is the background of the issue? And that might be a paragraph or 2. Okay, so you might remind the reader of particular aspects of the scenario that didn't fit into the issue statement. All right. Then the content of your note would be another section, and that would probably have a series of subsections broken out by the factual nature of the briefing note itself. For example, in your first assignment, you're being asked to brief your VP of environment in a large company about the facts surrounding a new measure for gross domestic product, or to counter gross domestic product to better reflect the environment. So what would your boss need to know in that context? Well, they would need to know, that person would need to know, no doubt, what are the criticisms of the GDP? So that might be a section under your content section. So Then they would need to know, well, what are the alternatives that people are coming up with? And that would probably be a major subsection with subsections under that as well, each describing the major issues that are involved. And then in each of those subsections, you would probably be giving them a sense of the pros and cons, the dominant pros and cons out there about each of the alternatives to GDP that groups are suggesting. Because your boss is going to be going to this meeting and being sort of participating in the conversation, or maybe even ask some questions from some key stakeholders. What is your position in the mining company on a new GDP? And so they need to know the major terminology, the lingo that's involved, the major schools of thought that are out there that are proposing alternatives, and what are the pros and cons of each. If you write that in a very succinct, very factual, very concise manner, working very, very hard on sort of being, working with short sentences, short paragraphs, use subheadings for people to be guided through your writing, and then with a summary or a recommendation section at the end. That's what I'm looking for in the briefing note style. Okay. Now, if you have any questions about that, all you have to do is go on and Google briefing notes, and you'll see that Google will produce all kinds of examples of what briefing notes look like, and so on and so forth. You'll find that I'm pretty much a stickler on having the issue statement and a short background, then a major content section, which or two. For example, in the scenario I just gave you, one content section might be problems with the GDP. Another major content section would be proposed alternatives to the GDP, and then subtitles with the major proposals for alternatives underneath. And then finally, a summation or a recommendation section, depending upon how strongly you feel about a topic. Okay? So in written assignment 1, that's 4 pages. I mean, that you can, when it's written concisely, you can do a lot with 4 pages. Don't feel like you need to put a lot of stuffing in there. This is not Christmas turkey, okay? This is a document that shouldn't have many extra words in there that don't have a substantive content or substantive meaning for the specific purpose of the note. Okay, so you need to learn how to write that way. So remember, use subheads to guide people through the note. Use short, punchy sentences. Use short paragraphs that deal with one topic at a time. Don't have run-on paragraphs. And then have your a summation session that's really short. To conclude, boom, 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 boom. 3 or 4 sentences. That's it. Okay, so that your reader, your client, your boss goes away from the note saying, okay, I caught the 3 or 4 major summary points, and I read the major body of the note. So if somebody raises in the meeting a particular index of happiness or something like that as one of the alternatives, sounds strange, but actually it's very interesting development. Then that person, your boss, knows what that other person in the meeting is talking about. You never want to leave your boss or your client kind of going, "Ooh, they didn't mention that in the briefing note. I have no idea what that is." So you have to be comprehensive, but you have to be comprehensive in such a way that you don't run on, that you catch the major points of each of the alternatives without dwelling on, without getting into too much detail, and so on. But at the other hand, don't leave your boss or your client hanging and not knowing what the concept means. That's the challenge of writing briefing notes, and that's the challenge of writing good briefing notes. But I can guarantee you, after 20-some years in the industry, that's going to be a lion's share of the types of writing you're going to be doing. So you need to learn how to do that. It's going to be difficult for you the first couple of times, but you'll get stronger. And by the time of Environmental Policy 2 is over, not only will you know the subject matter, which is the most important to us, of course, but you know how to write in a briefing note style, which is going to be critically important for you. Now, with respect to discussion boards, I don't want you to treat the discussion boards as if they're, there's one answer and that's it. And then you state it and it's 2 or 3 lines and you never come back in on the discussion board. The whole point of the discussion board is actually to stimulate discussion between the students on what the answer to a particular question in the discussion board is. And so I want you to come back in. If you want good grades in the discussion boards, here's the secret. Okay, wink, wink, nod, nod. Come in at least a couple of times. Add distinctive perspectives on the question a couple of times. And if you can, respond to or congratulate or support or counter the opinion of another student on that particular question. If you do that 2 or 3 times during the week, it doesn't need to take longer than being on the web page for 10 minutes. That's, each of those 3 times during a week. But the whole purpose of the discussion boards is that you learn from each other. Oh, I never thought of that. Oh, geez, okay, that was a good point. I must have missed that aspect of it. So when you're contributing to discussion boards, you're not just pursuing grades, you're helping other students in the class learn. You're learning from them. It benefits everybody. So make an effort in the discussion boards. Don't just sort of say, well, environmental impact assessment is this and that's it. You can come in and say, well, environmental impact assessment is that, but one of the problems that we're encountering with it is that there's too much ministerial discretion or that presents problems of political legitimacy. So think it through, add it. Don't just add 2 or 3 sentences and think that that's the end of the topic. Each of the questions you'll receive in discussion board itself could be a research paper. Okay, so build it out. So on that score, I'll let you go. If you have questions with writing or understanding how to participate more accurately or more fulsomely, don't forget to send me an email, and I can usually provide you with guidance, okay? That guidance, if it's general, may be sent back out to every student. If it's more particular to you, then it will be sent just to you, okay? On that score, take care. Bye-bye.